They did it. 530 days and they did it. Hey, my name is Parker. This is fanatixfour, and usually I script my videos so that what I say isn't incredibly stupid, but just a little bit stupid. And today I'm not scripting it because we watched the direct and here we are. And I wanted to, say words about it, but I didn't have time to script it and all that stuff. So I just watched it a little bit ago with my wife, and this video is going to be my thoughts about some highlights from the directs. And then I'll finish the video up as well with some disappointments or surprises that I had. There's very few of them. They're also very mild. So just getting that out of the way now. It's going to be generally a very positive video. And then finally, what I think all this means for the future of directs. Again, kind of be a short topic on that, but for the most part, we're just going to go through the highlights of the announcements. To me, what I thought was important and cool. Let's talk about it. So I'll be interested to know what you thought of the Nintendo Direct. I haven't watched anybody else's reactions or any of that stuff. I've seen some tweets of what various people think about the Direct. Some people are very excited, others aren't. And even during it, I could tell that it wasn't like the best for every single person. There was a lot of RPG stuff, which appeals to me, but doesn't appeal to everybody. And that's fine. Kicking this off right at the beginning within the RPG vein, we got Pyra in Smash. It started out with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 stuff. And as soon as it was Xenoblade Chronicles 2 specifically, I knew it was going to be Pyra for Smash. Well, I thought it was going to be Rex and Pyra, to be perfectly honest, and it wasn't. It was just Pyra and Mythra. Rex shows up a little bit here and there. But this is actually one of the only characters that I've specifically wanted in Smash for a long time. Since before Smash came out, Rex and Pyra was a combo that I was hoping for. I care a little bit less about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 now than I did back in 2018. But that said, I am not someone who plays Smash all that much. That would be mostly AJ on this channel. So this might be the first DLC character that I actually pick up just because it's somebody that I've been vying for a while, even though I don't know if I'm going to use it all that much. So, but in any case, Pyra in Smash, very exciting. I think that's super cool. Obviously not up everybody's alley. It's another sword fighter, but I'm excited for it. And then Fall Guys. This is one that we played the demo of this at PAX 2020, and we were surprised it wasn't going to be on Switch. And obviously there was an exclusivity deal with PlayStation, but it's great that it's finally coming to Switch. It's coming this summer, and I'm excited about it. Outer Wilds was also announced. That one speaks for itself. I started playing that one on Game Pass, so I'm excited to finish that, although probably I'll finish it on Game Pass because that's where I've started it. But I was surprised that the trailer kind of spoils the gameplay loop that I figured out during playing the game, and I thought that was probably the best way to find out about it. But maybe it's not an unknown. Maybe that's like part of the promotional material in the first place. I'm honestly not sure, but it seems like a cool game. I just need to get further into it and honestly get a hang of the controls because they're kind of weird and hard. Samurai Warriors 5. The only thing I want to say about this is I wonder, after the success of Age of Calamity, how many Warriors games we're gonna get now. Legend of Mana, and this is where the RPGs really kind of started getting going for this presentation. It comes out June 24th, and I think it looks really good. I don't know a whole lot about the original. Obviously, this is part of the Mana trilogy, Seiken Densetsu, and there's Secret of Mana, Legend of Mana, and Trials of Mana. To my understanding, this is the first of the three, and Trials of Mana came out on the Switch and was something that sold pretty well for Square Enix, as it seems, so obviously this is a well that they're wanting to dig back into and try to get the most out of. We got another trailer for Monster Hunter Rise, and it just still looks good. I'm sure there was more things in there that people who know what they're looking at picked up on nuances of. I did wish we'd also have gotten some Monster Hunter stories too, but I don't really need more to sell me on that. I'm very excited about that game specifically. In any case, Monster Hunter Rise still looks great. The demo was fun. I'm looking forward to playing it with some friends. It'll be good. And now we're getting into a little bit more of the meat as we go, specifically stuff coming from Nintendo as we get into Mario Golf Super Rush. This is coming out June 25th. I have yet to play a Mario Golf game, but I'm really looking forward to this. The extra modes look super cool. There's the regular golf mode, and then there's the Super Rush stuff where you're like running around and trying to play golf as fast as you can. And there's something about that hecticness that'll be really cool. I am curious. They didn't say that I remember whether or not that's going to be online, so that would be interesting to find out if it will be, but I would expect it has to be. My only thing that I'm really curious about with this game is I am a little bit worried about the story story mode. If I'm comparing it to Golf Story, that had a really good story mode and was really in depth. Also thinking about Mario Tennis Aces story mode was pretty weak. It kind of had RPG elements, but barely, and you got better equipment as you went, but it was like just straight up better equipment. You weren't min-maxing or anything like that. Like, it was just you got a better tennis racket, and then the old one was just useless at that point. Whereas in this one, you're earning skill points and able to put them in, you know, like your speed or how powerful your strikes are or something like that. So all that said, I think that's the better way to do it. But I just hope, because the story mode is going to be where I spend most of my time, that it feels fleshed out and kind of a full campaign, and that if you're buying it only for that and not the multiplayer stuff, that is still worth your time. We got another trailer for No More Heroes 3. It comes out August 27th, and this will be my first game in the No More Heroes series at all, so I hope that it's a game that like meets fan expectations, and then therefore, you know, something that if I like it, it means that like, maybe I'd be able to go back to the older games and enjoy them. I hope for the fans' sake that it's just the kind of thing that they enjoy. It seems like a cool, wacky, fun game, and so I just hope it delivers. We saw what the Animal Crossing Mario update looks like. It's coming out February 25th, and all things considered, the items look cool, looks pretty standard Mario type stuff. And the thing that I'll say I'm most excited about is the fact that it's in February, because I'm hoping that there's going to be a substantial update of some sort in March to be something to really reward fans who have been enjoying Animal Crossing this whole time, but have gotten kind of burnt out on what's there. It's just nice that the 1 year update isn't the Mario stuff, because it would feel a little bit silly for the big deal update to be an update based on another series. But then one of my highlights for sure from the whole direct was Project Triangle Strategy. A terrible name, and one that I hope doesn't stick around, because I liked Project Octopath Traveler. I do not like Project Triangle Strategy as a game name. I mean, obviously it would just turn into Triangle Strategy if that were the case, but bad. Like, get rid of it, choose something, anything better. I don't care what it is. But this is the first game that we saw that was slated for 2022. Because up till this point, honestly, most of the games were coming out in the first half of the year, because they talked about, we're going to be focusing on games for the first half of 2021. This one, that was not the case. Totally fine, not a big deal at all, because there's a demo coming out with it, and this is very much an Octopath Traveler, and, you know, kind of Bravely Default 2 in the same way that they're doing the demo and getting feedback from it and improving on that. But it's the same team that worked on Octopath Traveler. It's the HD 2D style, and I really enjoyed Octopath Traveler, so that's great. The gameplay is pretty different in that it's a strategy RPG, so think Final Fantasy Tactics, not Final Fantasy VI. I'm excited to see how deep the world is. They did mention a lot of things about like being able to choose different paths depending on what you do, and the choices that you make impact the game. And that there's a lot of games that make those kinds of sells. So I'm curious what impact that really has, like how somebody's gameplay would be different from somebody else's, those kinds of things. Obviously, I think they mentioned it can impact which characters join your team or not. But as far as like real story stuff, yeah, it would just be great to see. I mean, I know with Fire Emblem, for example, that's depending on which house you choose significantly changes what the actual story is of the game. Again, with this, I'm curious to see what that means, but I'm very excited for this game. I haven't played the demo yet because I'm recording this video, but I'm gonna play it soon. Actually, probably I'll try to play it tonight some and then talk about it a little bit on the podcast tomorrow, where AJ and I will go through all of these in a little bit more detail and also maybe talk about some of the ones we didn't talk about here, but you'll hear AJ's opinions as well as mine. So yeah, Project Triangle Strategy, terrible name, looks like a great game. Excited about it. World's End Club. It comes out May 28th, and the only thing I'm going to say about this is, as my wife and I watched the trailer, we were like, this is the story from Alice in Borderlands, which is a Netflix anime live action kind of show, and it's really good if you're into that kind of thing. But in any case, it's just funny that it's pretty much exactly that story. Moving on, there is now going to be DLC to Age of Calamity. So I don't think we knew this, but I mean, if we're being honest, we knew this. There was definitely going to be more characters and expansion pass. I'm sure we talked about it when it got announced, but again, that's really cool. So that's awesome. Now we're moving into the last couple things. Again, I've skipped over some of the actual announcements that happened, but I've talked about a significant amount of them still. And Eiji Aonuma showed up on screen and he said, no Breath of the Wild 2 news today. And I'm going to talk about that more in the surprises and disappointments section of this video. So hold on a couple minutes. I'll come back to that. But he did talk about Skyward Sword HD coming July 16th. Okay, let's talk about this. I am very excited this is coming out. I've never played Skyward Sword specifically, and I've been waiting for it to come to Switch for me to do it. I think it looks really nice. I mean, it was already a pretty picturesque game, but picturesque in 480p versus in 720p, 1080p, that kind of thing is a big difference. Also, the controls coming across is like the exact thing that was the reasonable prediction the whole time is that they would do the motion controls. And then if you're in handheld, you would use the stick. There was a funny discourse around this whole thing where I'd hear other people say like, no, there's just no way for them to do it. I don't know how they're gonna do it, to be honest. And the whole time I was like, they'll figure out a way and like use the stick or something. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see how it actually plays and if it feels good. Speaking of those Joy-Cons, they announced some new Joy-Cons that look so nice. It looks like a Master Sword and a Hylian Shield. One thing is I do suspect that this game, gameplay-wise, is going to be received better now than when it came out, in the same way that we've all been talking about how 3D World is received now better than when it came out because Odyssey has come out and respectively Breath of the Wild has come out. So at the time people were worried like, is this what the future of Zelda is and this what the future of 3D Mario is? And no, that was just what that Zelda was and that 3D Mario were. So now I feel like we'll be able to enjoy these games better without worrying about what the implications are for the rest of the series, and that'll be great. The last thing that they announced was Splatoon 3, which frankly, I was surprised by. I was thinking at first, I was positive that it was a spin-off Splatoon adventure game. And that's something that I really would like them to do. And I do wonder if the single player mode for this is going to be more different than Splatoon 1 and 2 and be a bit more, not open world by any means, but like open area, a little bit more sandboxy in that regard. Maybe not. The aesthetic kind of gave me those vibes. So I'm curious about what the single player is because that's a big hang up for me. I don't play a lot of online multiplayer games. So Splatoon 3 is obviously a huge announcement for tons of people that are really, really, really excited. But for me personally, I don't care all that much. So those are just some thoughts. I kind of wish that they'd done a spin-off, but you know, who cares? Splatoon 3, that's awesome. It's coming out 2022. Again, this is the second one coming out in 2022. And that's pretty much, in my opinion, all of the really big ones from today. Some of those ones that I talked about are a little bit smaller, some are bigger. So I'm curious, before we get into the kind of wrap up conversation here, what your thoughts were on the Direct. Just like as a whole, did you think it was amazing, phenomenal, or kind of garbage, or somewhere in between? You know, let me know all that in the comments because that'll be interesting. But let me get to my surprises or disappointments, the things that I thought was going to go a little bit differently, and it's fine that they didn't. So the first thing is I thought it was funny that there were a couple straight up 2022 titles. They mentioned that they were only going to focus on things for the first half of 2021. Of course, that focus language has always meant that they end up doing something outside of that anyway. They said they were going to focus on stuff from 2017 in the 2017 E3 Direct, and then they showed Metroid Prime 4, which is probably a 2034 game or something ridiculous. But yeah, they showed some 2022 games. So it is nice. They didn't show any holiday games for this year, so that does leave a decent amount of surprises for them to still show throughout this year for this year. But one thing that was a bit of a disappointment, but not really, more just a surprise, is there weren't any shadow drops. There was the demo for Project Triangle Strategy, terrible name, probably great game. And that's great. So I'm going to play that demo, but it's interesting that they didn't have any shadow drops because normally they do. And like, I would have loved to see Silk Song, for example, but it's fine that it wasn't there. We'll see when we see it. And of course, I'm a little bit disappointed that there was no Breath of the Wild 2 news and no more Zelda's 35th anniversary news. I think it was smart of them to go ahead and say, hey, by the way, there's no Breath of the Wild 2 news right off the bat. They did that with Age of Calamity, and that was the right way to do it. But the reason it's not really a disappointment is because I still really think there's going to be more 35th anniversary stuff for Zelda, for Metroid, and other things, and that we're just going to find out about those as we go. We're only in February right now, and in their eyes, they still haven't finished the Mario stuff, so that's going to finish up, March 31st, and then Mario's going to go away forever. We're never going to see him again, and it's going to be a sad old time. But at that point, then they can start ushering in Zelda and Metroid. So it makes sense that they didn't do it, but it of course would be great to find out about Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD or anything like that. But Skyward Sword HD is only July 16th. So assuming that, Zelda's 35th goes until March 31st of the next year, they've got plenty of time to release lots of Zelda content and keep it really spread out. If Skyward Sword HD was announced and dated for holiday time or something, I'd be a little bit more worried about that it was going to be sparse on the anniversary stuff. But at this point, it seems fine. And the last disappointment was also similarly no Metroid stuff. So I do still suspect that we'll get more later this year, but there's going to be fewer things for Metroid regardless than there would be for Zelda. So it makes sense that they're holding that off for later. And on that front, what does this Direct mean for the future of Directs for Nintendo? I think that's up to interpretation a little bit, but to me, it really means that I think that for a little while, at least, they're going back to kind of the regular thing that they've been doing, 3 Directs a year, something along those lines. And I do think it was really smart of them to do it in February instead of in January, because I feel like in past years when we've had a Direct in January, come April or even March sometimes, people are already getting antsy for another Direct. Whereas in February, I think we all know that we wouldn't expect one again anyway until June. Like, that's just understood. We've got plenty of games dated through the summer, so we're not waiting on any information. Like, we already know everything we need to know by then. And then finally, just thoughts about Directs as a whole. I'm excited that they're back. I think it was long enough to get that frustration or pent up energy out of a lot of people's systems that were like really hankering for a Direct in 2020, and then had a few letdowns towards the end of 2020 with the beginnings of the partner Directs, to where by the time we actually had one now, I think everybody was just excited for it. So obviously some people were still disappointed. Maybe you were disappointed. I'd love to actually hear about that. I'll respond to your comment. We'll bring up some of them to talk about on our podcast. Of course, Nintendo can announce things however they want to, but I personally feel like this was a fun way to do it. So I'm looking forward to more of the same throughout the rest of 2021. Let's do it. But that's what I think. What do you think? Do you think we're going to get more Directs at all? What did you think of this one? Again, like I said, let me know that in the comments down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to fanatixfour for more content like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And also, we'll take some of those comments and talk about them on our podcast this weekend, where we'll be really talking about all of this different stuff from the Direct, because it's always just fun to chat about that stuff. Maybe we'll have a guest on. I don't know. We'll see. But that's about it for me. So see y'all later. Peace and blessings.